Allard's neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, it's just me today. You know, it's time for a rant. What is the name of the episode? A time for venting.
A time for venting.
I got to do it every now and then, you know, or else I pull a muscle. And there's a lot to vent about these days. I'm going to have a little bipartisan venting as well. It's, you know, it's not just all latest Trump outrage. I'm pretty upset with the Democrats as well about a couple of things, which you get to hear, because what does it say in the title? You're entitled to my opinion. You just don't get to hear all about it. How you been today?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Just trying to get you that Facebook link.
We're not on the Facebook link yet? Oh, yeah, we'll get it to
There you
it.
go.
There we go. Okay, rock and roll. Anyway, there we go. But anyway, as always, you know, before I go through all the ads, this is my opinion. If you want to know what their opinions are about, you know, what they think about these things, you can ask them themselves, but I do appreciate the sponsors giving me this opportunity to rant and rave. What episode number is this?
This would be 831.
That puts me in the top 10% of podcasts.
Puts you in the top something for sure.
Yeah, you know, top something. That doesn't sound good, but
No,
you know.
you know what I meant.
Yeah, I know, but top something, you know. But anyway, yeah, you like that, huh? Anyway, I'm just looking through all this. There we go. I got the last one there. Anyway, no, I'm going to talk about it because there's a couple of things that come up last week that really stuck in my craw, and I want to get them out of my craw. And, you know, it really makes me mad, and it's bipartisan. You know, I'd like to be fair about it, or balanced. I know. Is fair and balanced? Is that? Oh, that's already taken. I can't use that, right? That's Fox, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that one. Okay. Anyway, let's go through the ads real quick, and then I'll jump into this topic. Oh, there's Irma's already here. Hi, miss me. Oh, good. Irma's going to be on, and I'm sure she'll have some commentary. Anyway, our place, as always, a great place. There's 4 locations. Otto himself runs the one here in Crowley and the one in Burleson, which is, you know, like their big one. The one in Mansfield, I think, is the original, or at least their flagship. I'm not sure. I guess I'll have to ask him that. But I've been to the one in Cleburne, and you know, that's the good thing about these our places. All 4 of them, you walk in there, you know what you're going to get, and it's going to be good. It's going to have a good level of service, great level of service, and you're going to have a very comfortable atmosphere, and that's exactly what it's going for, hence the name, Our Place. Also, Gina's Pizza is the same way. Last night was chess night. Tonight is bingo night. You know, and I was talking with Josh before the show. When I say bingo night, I keep thinking of that scene from Inglourious Bastards. Ooh, it's a bingo. Is that how you say it? Oh, no, we just say bingo. Bingo! It's an interesting movie. A great movie. At least it's not as violent as some, Tarantino, but I digress. Could be worse. Kill Bill is awful. Anyway, I digress. Gina's Pizza. Go get some decent pizza, great salads, great sub sandwiches. I've had 2 or 3 of their different sandwiches. They have hot dogs for lunch. Well, you can get it for dinner, I suppose, too, but they're just really, really good, and it's a great place to go. Also, John Williams over at Old Pro Roofing here in town, 817-734-2756. While it's hot and dry, get your roof inspected so any damage that occurs after your inspection cannot be passed off as old damage, and therefore you have to go to the mat with the insurance company, which John will do for you. He's done that more than once, and he'll tell you some insurance companies are pretty easy to work with, and some are just, it's a death fight to the end. But so you need to have somebody on your side, and you need to have somebody local, because these guys that come and go and all this great, make a living, I get it, but you want somebody local, so when it's time to wrestle with the insurance companies, you know where to call. So 817-734-2756. Also, my friend Jeff Kelly at the Realtors at Wethington Agency here in town. Also, you want to do with local folks here, too, that know the neighborhoods, that know the county thing, know where the homes are, know where the right title company and lending company and whatnot. You know, my friend Candy at Camco Mortgage can help you out with that part. So 817-781-0546, and also at Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. It's good to have somebody that knows the area as opposed to trying to deal with it online and whatnot, and you're going to get a fair value for what you're trying to get. Also, my friend Rod Lewis, Burleson News Express. You can pick it up about 60 different places. It's very handy. Last night, Robin made a recipe out of issue from a couple of weeks ago, this smoky peach glazed chicken, and it was very good. And I'm not a big chicken guy. I'm red meat, as you might guess. But it was very good. And so that's the kind of value you get from these hometown papers we haven't had for a while. So give it a check out. I always pick up a copy if I'm out at Daydream Coffee, but I also get it in the mail because I'm a subscriber. Also, True Climate, Heating and Cooling with Will Cobb and his sister Emily, 682-244-2019. Again, it's getting close to the end of summer, I hope, but that doesn't mean you survived it, because you don't want your HVAC to go out in December either. And so you need to have them check it out. And they have a $99 a year program that entitle you to some very good discounts and very steep deals, steep cuts and things of that nature. And you need to get inspected. So if you're on the verge of something, or if you have need some replaced, you'll know ahead of time, and not when it's 30 degrees outside or 110 degrees outside. All right, that being said, let's get on to the rant. A couple of nights ago, I think Friday, late night, I watched something on Netflix. It was a documentary narrated by Jodie Foster, and it was about 1975, which I was 13 at the time. So when they were going through all these film clips and whatnot, and videos, old newscasts, I was there. I mean, I remember it. Even at 13, I was raised in a house that we were fairly cognizant of what's going on. I mean, I'm not going to get in some weird thing that, we had pop quizzes at dinner time or anything like that, but we had magazines and newspapers in our home, and the news was a regular feature in our home. So I kind of knew what was going on more than your typical 13-year-old kid. And so a lot of this was not just history to me, but memories. And one of the things that it showed me was how similar 1975 is to today. 1975, it stunk. The 70s as a whole was a terrible decade. I mean, it really was. And a lot of the things that made the 70s terrible, we go through now. We had inflation. We had unemployment, this new phenomenon called stagflation. We had gas lines. We had a war that was ending very unsatisfactorily. We had a government coming out of Watergate that had really, it wasn't just the lies of Watergate, it was also the lies connected with Vietnam. And the constant, things are going to get better, things are really not as bad as you think they are kind of thing. And it was just a very difficult time, and people were looking for alternative politics, alternative religions, and alternative philosophies, and so it was all over the map. And to make it even worse, that abomination known as disco. You like disco, Josh?
You weren't a fan of disco?
I didn't like anything about it. The music, you hear it the first time, you think, that's a nice little beat. You hear it a billionth time, and you're about ready to throw yourself off a bridge. What I didn't like about disco also was all the disco atmosphere, if you will, the rayon shirts with the really wide lapels that were buttoned down to your navel, unbuttoned in, or the girls with the plastic looking makeup and that whole genre attitude of disco, the Studio 54 lifestyle. That just they had that going on in this documentary also, and it just astounded me watching it. And I've seen those kind of documentaries before. I remember watching one a few months ago about Studio 54 by itself, and I'm just astounded people lived like that, and that was what motivated them and what they lived for and all this other stuff. And it's like how shallow and sad that lifestyle is. I'm watching some of that now, okay? And that's the point I'm making. I was struck about how bad things were then. I was struck about how similar those things are going on to today. And there was a movie that came out in the mid-'70s called Network that I really like, and it's a satire about how networks come to some of their decisions and how they promote things for the television. And there was the most famous part of it, of course, is when the newsman Howard Beale goes off the rails on a live broadcast. He's a newsman, and he goes off the rails and starts ranting, and they make a whole cult around this guy, and then when he gets assassinated, they find ways to profit off that too. But the most famous line comes from this, so go ahead and hit it, bud.
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Yeah. And that's exactly what we're feeling today. This was 51 years ago. And the same feelings are going today. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And that's kind of where I am myself personally. And a lot of people are. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are so out, not just on politics, but everything, because they're just so tired of the constant onslaught. And we say, well, it's because of the social media and whatever else. But, you know, we had media back in 1975. It was newspapers and TV and radio and all that. And we felt the same. We felt like it was just a constant onslaught of news. It was a constant onslaught of propaganda. You know, that's not, you know, what you're feeling isn't legitimate. What you're feeling isn't real. It just, you know, but people were mad as hell in 1975, and they're mad as hell now. Absolutely. And I think that's what really struck me watching that video, is just how similar our society is in terms of how it's feeling about itself, how it's feeling about its country, how it's feeling about its politics. And so when I talk about today, I've got 2 or 3 things that stuck in my craw that the Democrats have done, and a couple of things that the Republicans, particularly Mr. Trump, has done. And it leaves me with that same feeling. I'm mad as hell. How about you, Josh? You mad?
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Well, you youngins, you know, y'all think this is normal. And as a history teacher, I could tell you other eras in our history where things were rough and, you know, and there was at each other's throats kind of thing, and politics was nasty. Politics has always been nasty. So I'm not saying that we're living through something that's unique, but what I think we're living through is the constant bombardment of this. I have to hand it to Mr. Trump in one way. He never seems to get tired. And neither do some of the Democrats, but Trump in particular, he never seems to miss opportunity to make himself the center of this country and our universe, whether we want it or not. And I think that's where some of this fatigue is the constant bombardment of what Mr. Trump says, what Mr. Trump does, and how the Democrats react to it. And they react to it in the same hyperbolic, exaggerated manner that he performs in. Benjamin Nichols says, I'm mad despite an absurd income costs are skyrocketing. Absolutely. And I'm going to get to that, Ben. I have a little sort of a schedule here, but I will get to that. That's true, though. That's what made us mad back in 1975 was, the gas prices. I tell kids, when I was in high school, gas was like $1.49.9. And they go, gosh, I wish we had that gas price. I said, no, you don't, because if it's inflation, it'd be about 5.5. And I think this is the word I come up with then and now, is exploited. People feel exploited by the society, by their politics, by their government, by these 2 stupid parties who can't nominate and elect decent people, that they feel exploited by factors they can't control. We were, back in 1975, we were exploited by the fact that the Arabs could raise the price of oil arbitrarily anytime they felt like it. And we just had to take it. We felt exploited that we got, at best, I don't want to even call it a tie, we got beat in Vietnam. And it breaks my heart to say that. We got beat by a country that barely is out of the Stone Age. But the North Vietnamese and the Iranians have a lot in common, and that is they're willing to suffer pain that we can't even imagine to get to their goals. We were exploited by the fact that our government lied to us about Vietnam. We were exploited by the fact that we were being beset by weird trends, weird religious diversions, philosophical diversions. And exploited is how a lot of Americans feel now. Now, you want to go with Democrats or Republicans first? Which do you want?
Your call.
Let's go with the Democrats. Last week, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said something that really, really stuck in my craw. And I think we have it here on tape or video.
I'm sure you've seen. I mean, she's, the Thanksgiving dust up. She says she doesn't, still believe that, but, the abolished prisons, abolished police, which is also positions that have been taken by a lot of the progressive candidates who have won. How do you get around that? I mean, those are not positions that are supported by most of
I mean, I think that my understanding is that is that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
She's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying, woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. I can't stand it. Woke one was crazy. So she's trying to justify the positions of a Democrat nominee for governor in Wisconsin who got beat by about 3,200 votes, which is very close. That how she moved away from a position she had 2 years ago. That's like, on a side note, that's what this Abdul El Sayed is saying in Michigan. Oh, that was my former position. You had these positions 2 years ago, and now you're saying, oh, that was in my youth or whatever. But anyway, what AOC said shows to me the callousness of a lot of the political party, particularly either side you want to pick, but in this case, the left. Woke one was crazy. Ha, ha, ha. Woke one destroyed lives. Woke one destroyed careers. Woke one put our country in turmoil that we can't agree on certain things without having to deal with all this political crap on the left. That something as benign as Thanksgiving can't be held as a family get-together. No, it has to be a celebration of the American colonialism and genocide of native cultures. Okay? It's, everything that they want to take about America, they want to make it into something negative, something terrible. We can't just have Thanksgiving. We can't just have common sense on law and order. Her laughing it off shows how shallow she really is. AOC's a nitwit, all right, and she's going to run for president, I'm pretty sure, or if not for senator for New York, but I bet she ends up throwing her hat in for the presidency. Will she get it? I doubt it, but it doesn't matter. But her laughing off her former positions is an example of just how dumb they think we are. Now, Irma says we should all reevaluate our positions and evolve. I don't think this is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing if you really, truly are evaluating and evolving. They were doing it for political purposes only. AOC hasn't changed her mind. She just knows that she won't get elected unless she has a more moderate position on things. She still holds those values. So did that Francesca Hong who got beat. She didn't change her mind about her positions on the police or the border or anything else or Medicare for all, and you fill in the blank. They just said, well, we're going to tone it down for electoral purposes. So, Irma, I have to disagree. AOC is not reevaluating the damn thing. She's just trying to be more electable. Which will lead me into the next one, James Talrico. All right, James Talrico, he's stuck in my craw in a couple of ways. I mentioned this before. James Talrico is a very progressive senator, okay? I'm okay with that in a sense because, he's entitled to his political positions, okay? I'm not one of those people that say, well, if you don't agree with me, then you must be trash, et cetera, et cetera. That's not it. Said, we elected a felon. Irma says, no more common sense. If nothing else, it just shows how anyone can get elected. Well, okay, hang on your whatabouts, Irma, until I get to Mr. Trump, and I think you'll probably be more satisfied because I'm not letting Trump off the hook today either. But anyway, here's a Washington Post article. Senate hopeful Talrico touts his faith. Texas Republicans call it blasphemy. Now, I'm not going to go and call him blasphemous because that's a personal thing. If I think he's blasphemous, sure, but, he's entitled to his own religious viewpoints that he wants. My problem with Talrico is he's trying to use the faith as an electoral advantage, he thinks, because he's running against Ken Paxton, who's nobody's idea of a deacon, no matter what he says. All right. Paxton's activities and his affairs and his activities as Attorney General, his impeachment, they're all public record. But I'm talking about Talrico. Talrico has an ad coming out where he sits with his grandfather, Baptist preacher, which he makes clear to point out. And he says, I've lived my life by two things: honor God, love neighbors. Hey, that's a great message, right? It's the golden rule. It's a very good summation of Scripture. The problem is, what if I don't agree with him? What does that make me? If I don't like his policy, he's not saying honor God and honor people in a personal manner. He's saying honor God and honor people through our political policies. Honor God and love our neighbor through policies. Well, if I don't agree with that policy, for whatever reason, what does that make me? Do I not love God? Do I not love my neighbor? Well, that's what he's implying very strongly. When you put yourself in that position that I am on God's side, I live by honor God, honor people. Honor God, love neighbors. And if you don't want Medicare for all, then how can you say you love your neighbor? If you don't want, fill in the blank, whatever policy he has, higher taxes on the rich, then you don't love your neighbor. You don't honor God and love your neighbor through your political policies. You do that through your personal life, okay? Your personal life. It doesn't matter how I vote. It matters how I treat people, how well I adhere to the Scriptures. And my vote isn't part of that. I don't vote the way I do because I think that's the best way to honor God. I feel like the best way to honor God is to live by his scriptural teachings. And I don't need a politician to tell me that this is the way you show your honor to God and your love for people and your love God and whatever else. All right, now, Irma says, is it possible Talrico is just being authentic? I think he believes it. Yeah, I believe it. I don't think he ever implied that if anyone doesn't agree with him that they don't love God. Irma, you haven't read some of the things he said on the floor of the Texas Senate. Okay, because he has said things of that nature, that if you vote this policy, you can't say you love God if you vote for this policy. He has said that from the floor of the Texas Senate. I just don't have the quote in front of me, but there is one episode I do know when they were talking about, allowing biological males in girls' locker rooms and girls' sports, and he says, that the argument against it, the scriptural argument against it, was bogus because God is non-binary. Well, he can believe that all he wants, but he was using Scripture to oppose policy. So therefore, if you vote for that policy, you don't love God and you don't honor your neighbors. And he said that. Okay, he said that from the pulpit. There's a video clip out there on YouTube about him on the pulpit of his church, Presbyterian Church in Austin, where he basically says that opposition to abortion is not biblically sanctioned. So he's using Scripture to justify his positions. And if you don't have those positions, where does that leave you? This is exactly what Democrats have complained about Republicans have been doing for decades. This kind of accusation against the Republicans has gone on since really the Reagan administration, that the Republicans are co-opting religion for political purposes. Well, that's exactly what Talrico's doing. Even if he's authentic, even if he really believes these things, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he really believes these things. I'm not going to call him a hypocrite in a sense, but he's using Scripture to make political gain and political points. And to say that I oppose abortion because I think it's against my religious faith, I shouldn't be using my religion to impose upon other people. But if I said I supported abortion because of religious reasons, then I am following Scripture according to Talrico. That's just not. That is a bad and dangerous thing. And I don't care if he looks like Howdy Doody. I don't care if he's young. I don't care if he's authentic. I just think he's using religion in a very negative way. And that if Paxton did that, people would be howling, not just because he doesn't live those principles. I mean, I can't buy into, he's trying to say I'm a man of faith and all this other stuff. We'll live like it first, and then we'll talk. But even, if you take any politician that uses Scripture to say, I think this is what the policy should be because the Bible tells me so, you're asking for trouble. And I just, if I were a politician, would the Scripture inform my decision? Yes, it would, absolutely. I'm a man of faith. I would, yeah, it would guide my decisions. Yeah, that would, it would guide my decisions. But I would never use the scripture for personal gain in that manner. Okay? If they said, Allard, are you running for office? Yes. Do you support abortion? And I say no in most cases. And I don't want to get into, life of the mother routine. I just say, I'm pro-life. All right, let's just put it that way. And they say, why are you pro-life? I said, well, I think it's, there's scriptural problems with it. But I'm not going to use that as for personal gain. And that's what Talrico's doing. That's why I get so upset. Lastly, on my Democrat craw is that it's come out last week that Mr. Biden, Joe Biden, has basically terminal cancer. He's in his last days. I don't know if he'll make it to the end of the year. It doesn't change my evaluation of him as a president. I thought he was a terrible president, but I don't wish this on him. I don't wish ill on him. Most people I know that don't like Joe Biden's presidency, don't like him personally, don't wish this on him. We're not ghouls, like that. I hope he spends his remaining days with his family in as painless as possible, as peaceful as possible. That doesn't mean I've changed my mind about his policies and his conduct as president. But it does, when Mr. Trump says, well, I don't feel sorry for him. I think he was a terrible person and a vicious man. Mr. Trump, is there not an ounce of sympathy or empathy in you at all? Joe Biden, I honestly, in my evaluation, was probably about the worst president I had endured. Or he'd be on the list. But it doesn't mean I wish this for him. But my problem was the Democrat Party leadership, at least, knew that this was his condition in 2024. They knew he had cancer. They knew it was progressive. They knew that he emotionally, mentally, and physically was unable to do the job, yet they still put him up in 2024 until he finally, threw a rod on a national debate and showed the American public what most people already knew within the Democrat Party. They just didn't want to acknowledge it because the idea of Trump winning was so terrible that they would put a man that would not survive his next term. I really think the Democrat Party leadership, I don't know about Democrats in general, because most Democrats I knew understood that Joe Biden was diminished quite a bit. I don't think they understood to the extent until they saw him live, but the Democrat Party knew, and they put him up anyway. Can you imagine what we'd be going through now if we had Joe Biden still president? He'd be totally incapable of being president. So we'd have Kamala Harris. All right, you want to vote for Harris? Great. But let's vote for Harris, not for having her get into the presidency through the back door, which is what they were trying to do. They were trying to basically, win the election, and then, oh, my goodness, we need, his health is, we're going to have, the 25th Amendment enacted for a little while and that kind of thing, and have Ms. Harris as acting president, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing was a charade. The Democrat leadership knew Joe Biden could not do this job. Why did they not acknowledge that much sooner? Why didn't they have an open primary? Why didn't they not have people compete for that job? And if Harris was nominated by the Democrat Party, so be it. But basically, it was just a backdoor way of getting Ms. Harris into the position. And everybody in the leadership was on board with that, including Jill Biden. I don't care what she wrote in that very disingenuous memoir she wrote and got published and got immediately trashed. Like, wait a minute, you saw all this going on and you said nothing about it? And then when she gets on the interview, she tries to backtrack on that a little bit and all this. It was a disgrace. But anyway, you want to talk about Republicans for a while, Josh?
Sure. Actually, if I could weigh in on something you just said.
You say, please do.
I am becoming a firm believer in we need to have complete transparency about the medical state of our politicians.
Mm-hmm.
That goes for Joe Biden, who, he had cancer this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we didn't tell you guys. That goes for Mitch McConnell, who had a cardiac event and is not being seen by the press, but his team is saying he's okay, and every proof of life photo is very painfully AI.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Trump.
Yes, I agree.
His the administration telling us he's a picture perfect thing of health. What was it? 6'5", 4.1% body fat. I mean, come on.
Please.
And also, he's doing great on his dementia tests. Well, if you're taking 3 dementia tests a month, that's probably not a good thing. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, I believe that to be true. Absolutely. And it's used to be that the medical reports of the presidents were made public knowledge, like their finances. And Obama was in very good health. Bush was in very good health. Clinton was in pretty good health. I mean, he had cholesterol issues and stuff like that, and we all knew that. And it really didn't bother us. Okay, Bill Clinton has cholesterol. Who don't, right? And that kind of thing. There's no way that Trump is a picture of health. He's obviously very overweight and does not look good. Biden did not look good. And we knew that. We saw it. As far as McConnell, you're right. Kay Granger, God bless her, she passed away last week. Kay Granger represented Fort Worth for about 20 years or so, or more than that. And she spent the last 6 months of her last term in a memory care facility, and we didn't know it.
Yeah.
Irma says, I second this opinion. I have the opinion that Trump is not 215 pounds. Are you kidding? I'm 215 pounds, and that's no joke. I'm 215 pounds, and I could lose 10 pounds. I'd need to. And then Mr. Crisp says, Ossoff Buttigieg 2028. Yeah, we'll see. I don't get into the early prognostications because it's, I've seen people that thought about being president at this point in somebody's term, and it, you got to be joking. You know who the actor Warren Beatty is?
No.
Well, gosh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my Lord. He's a very well-known actor for my generation, anyway. I remember in 84, he comes out. He says, I have a press conference. And he thought he was going promoting some movie, right? And he comes out and says, I will not be running for president in 1984. I'm like, was that even a question? What an ego. I seriously, you really thought about that? And you think this is news I needed to know that you're not going to run? I didn't even know that was a thought in your head, dummy. But what you get is this. Politicians call this the stupid season. Allard 2028. Robin won't let me run for president. She wouldn't like that at all. All right.
I'd actually pay to see that.
No, you would?
That would be fun.
I've probably told the story on the air before. When I retired from BISD 10 years ago now, towards the end of my last month or two there, a couple of my teacher colleagues come up to me and said, hey, you'll be eligible to run for school board. Why don't you think about it? And I said, maybe so. And so I go to Robin, and I didn't even get the sentence out of my mouth. Bam. No, you will not be running. Oh, Irma says she does wear the pants. Boy, if you know what's going on in the Crisp home, I mean, you kidding me? I think what's Brandon's favorite phrase? Yes, dear. Anyway, I'm just saying, Robin had no intention for me to allow me to run for any office, school board, etc., because all the crap that goes with it. But it doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, you're not old enough to be president. That's for sure there. I will be 64. I am 64. I'll be 65 in 10 months. So I'm right in the prime of life. But here's a couple things about Mr. Trump. Why don't you run that clip on the news? This is from the Weekend News. The NBC, the one
okay.
that, yeah.
And now to the war with Iran and that country's new warning to the U.S. to accept the reality of defeat. It comes as President Trump raised eyebrows, saying he would declare the Strait of Hormuz an American territory. Julie Sirkin is traveling with the president.
Tonight, Iran is calling on the United States to accept defeat and, quote, stop indulging in delusions. The country's new demands nearly 6 months into fighting, coming after President Trump claims the opposite is true.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated.
He says the country is so weak he would soon claim the Strait of Hormuz for the U.S.
We have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
But Iran not backing down, declaring the strait will stay in its control. And on Friday, the president brushing off concerns about a key vessel supporting the war with Iran at sea for a record 9 months.
No. Not nearly long enough.
The USS George Washington is expected to replace the USS Abraham Lincoln after relatives of some service members complained about plumbing issues and food. And parents of 2 sailors told NBC News their children said a fellow service member jumped overboard. A U.S. official says that sailor was quickly rescued and treated. Another concern the president is downplaying: rising gas prices, which are still averaging above $4 a gallon.
When you have to pay a little bit more, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, it's I'll never apologize. I did the right thing.
And with Iran holding firm for now, the White House in a holding pattern.
If they hit, we would hit back 100 times harder.
What if it's right before the midterms? Do you care?
Well, it could be, but people are looking at gasoline prices. That's all they're looking at. They like the fact that I'm stopping this lunatic nation from having an atomic bomb.
Julie Sirkin is in Bridgewater, New Jersey, traveling with the president. And Julie, on the USS Lincoln, some members of Congress are demanding investigations into conditions on board, right?
Yeah, Gotti, and concerns are bipartisan about the longer than usual deployment. Some key lawmakers are demanding answers from top Pentagon officials and are even weighing a formal investigation. Gotti?
Okay, that's good.
Julie Sirkin.
2 or 3 things. First of all, I was talking about that USS Lincoln. It was somebody. It doesn't matter. And the response was, well, don't they, know what they're signing up for? Be put in military situations. Yes, absolutely. They know what they're signing up for. They don't sign up for this. They don't sign up to be undersupplied and overextended. If they're going to be put out there in harm's way, then we got to do everything possible to make sure that not only they're well fed, but well taken care of in every regard. Okay, that their plumbing works, that they have what they need to do the job we're asking them to do. And when he says, the question was, do you think they've been out there too long? And he goes, well, they haven't been out there long enough. Again, total lack of empathy. And so that's what really bugged me about that. But we're not winning this war. Okay, nobody has an analysis of this war saying we're winning it. And, people say, well, Allard, you need to quit reading the New York Times. Well, I wish I could. And I get it. The New York Times isn't going to be a cheerleader for Mr. Trump. But where I get my news that really impacts me the most isn't from the New York Times. It's from the Wall Street Journal, National Review, the Dispatch, which are all 3 conservative outlets, and the Washington Post sometimes. And certainly the editorial page is much more conservative than it used to be. You've had to have read it for a while, like I have, to understand that. But anyway, the point is that we're not winning this war, and we're beating very badly. And then when people in his own administration are saying that we are running low on certain types of weaponry. He comes out and says, what we've done isn't hardly anything. We got plenty. We got all we need. What we've done so far is peanuts. Is that the way you fight a war anyway? It's just peanuts. Here's the thing. Let me go back to the beginning of this whole thing 6 months ago. When this started, I had mixed opinions. Okay? The constitutional professor, if I like to call myself, at least DBU calls me that, didn't like the fact that we just started a war. Boom, we wake up in the morning and we're bombing Iran. We had no prep. We had no congressional consultation. No nothing. We just wake up in the morning of February 28th and bam, we're at war. That's not how it's supposed to be. Now, I understand Iran is a threat. They are a threat. They're not a theoretical threat. They're not a threat by just our evaluation. They're a threat by their own statements and actions. Death to America is a daily or a weekly ending to their prayer. They have killed Americans in Iraq and Syria and all over the world. They've killed citizens of various countries. They have supported the Yemeni Houthi rebels, Hezbollah, and then Hamas. They are a threat, and they will use an atomic weapon. You can bet your life on it. So I got that part of it. I wish we'd have done it differently. But if we had actually beat them in a month, like, the delusional Mr. Trump thought we'd do in about 10 days, actually what he said. And had we beat them and all this had happened, to our benefit, I would have thought, well, okay. They were a threat. There are means in the Constitution where if there's an imminent threat to the country, the president could take certain actions or whatever else. And that was the argument, that they're an imminent threat. Well, I did not know that they were an imminent threat on February 27th. I did on February 28th because I was told they were. But anyway, we have fought this war very poorly. And we have done it haphazardly. And we've done it arbitrarily in the sense that we don't really have a strategy. We have basically a president who wakes up one day and we're on the verge of peace, on the verge of ending this war, to the next day we're bombing the crap out of them. Until the next day they're begging me on the phone for negotiations, which is a bold-faced lie. Irma says, I have heard us win this war at least 30 times. Well, yeah, we've been on the verge of peace numerous times, and that memorandum of understanding that expired a few days ago was a joke. And it was worse in some ways than what Obama had signed in 2015, which I still think is one of the worst things he did as president, was that deal with Iran. And this memorandum of understanding was even worse. And as far as controlling the Strait of Hormuz, forget it. We have the blockade, but they still have got the control of it. And this idea of making them an American territory, well, I don't think anybody in the world would allow that to happen, because that's sovereign, or it's not our sovereign territory. It's international waters. We don't have the right or the ability to claim that as ours. This isn't the 16th century Spain dropping in on the Caribbean. You like that one, huh?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And so we don't have that ability just to say, this is ours. But the whole thing about this war is, had it gone anything like what they said it would back in March, and we were done in April or May, and Iran had a leadership that actually wanted peace and wanted to treat its people okay. All right, Allard, you need to get off your high horse about the Constitution. But it's a fiasco. We're not getting out of it anytime soon, at least with a positive result. And the Iranians have got the bit between their teeth, and they're calling us out, and they're calling them a coward, and they're calling us losers, and all this other stuff. And are they goading us? Absolutely. Because you know what? They're like the North Vietnamese. They don't care about their people's pain. The Iranian leadership isn't worried about missing a meal, and they're not worried about the Iranian people missing a meal, because those Iranian leaders are going to get fed, but their people are not, and that's their problem. They don't care about the pain of their own people. Neither did North Korea. Neither does China. Neither does Russia. These countries that don't care about their people are able to outlast a country like ours, in which there's political consequences for not caring about your people. And then this one may come in November. I'm not making any predictions yet. That'll be for another show, but because there's a lot going on between now and then. But I'm just saying, these countries don't care about their people. So the Iranian leadership, it didn't matter what kind of pain they're going through. They're going to have their people endure it, suffer for it, and if you bellyache about it, they're going to kill you. And they've already executed, that we know of, up to 30 people for being dissents. And so all this I'm saying to you is that this thing is just like 1975. We did not get out of Vietnam in one piece, and it left long-term lasting damage in our foreign policy, in our sense of ourselves, and our confidence in ourselves, and things like that. And
that's what military.
Well, the military. Here's a story. I'm not trying to get too political about this either, but when I was in high school, I came from a family, an extended family with a lot of military service. And I was my senior year, and I have to sign up for the draft, which didn't, the draft itself didn't exist, but you still have to sign up for it. Do you still have to do that? The selective service when you were like 18?
I didn't get anything.
You hear that, NSA?
I mean.
Anyway, the point is, I had to sign up for the draft, but that would be if they ever reinstated the draft. And I asked my dad, I kind of felt kind of guilty because my dad, was in the Army, and so was his dad, and so was a couple of my uncles and a couple of my cousins. And I said, do you think I should just postpone Baylor a couple of years and join the military? And he goes, no, I don't want you to go in the military. It's not the same military I joined. And it was very, haphazard, disorganized, undisciplined, all the rest. And he didn't trust Mr. Carter to be able to make it better. And then Reagan comes in, and I'll give Reagan credit in this. He made the military much better by the time he left. A lot stronger, better supplied, better prepared, more pride, all that business. Now, that being said, I kind of lost my train of thought. No, I didn't. But what I'm saying is that Mr. Trump is not paying attention to this war. What is he paying attention to? How about that clip or that about the naval vessels, about he wanting to redesign our battleships? He wants to redesign our battleships, our aircraft carriers. Because why? Not because of any logistical reason or military purpose, because he doesn't like the way they look. That's no joke. I'm not kidding. He doesn't like the way our current naval vessels look, because they don't look like World War II. The one on the left is an aircraft carrier from the Pacific War in the 1940s, I think 1944. The one on the right is our new design, where the turret, or the island as they call it, but the command center is further to the rear of the vessel. And Trump doesn't like the way that looks. And so he wants them to change. And Ernest talk about more gold. You just wait a minute. All right. But the point is that this is what he thinks about, is aesthetics, design. Everything about him is the appearance. Okay? Why did he choose Pete Hegseth? Because he was a military genius? No, because he looked the part. Look at his female appointees. They're all pretty women. Okay? Well, you don't think so?
No.
Oh, you don't think Caroline Leavitt's pretty? You don't think Kristi Noem?
Not particularly, no.
Hey, dude, she's pretty.
All right.
Well, maybe she might be a little old for
to each their own.
No, I have my own, the one and only.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Robin, hope you're not listening to this.
Oh, she didn't listen to me.
Okay.
Yeah, even when I'm on the air, off the air, she don't listen to me. But anyway, but I'm saying this is what he thinks of. How about that clip or that one about from the Atlantic this morning? I don't know if y'all are subscribed, but it talks about how he's putting his name on everything. He spends most of his time worried about this kind of stuff than he is about our sailors getting fed. Are we winning the war? He doesn't, it's amazing to me. I mean, this whole article shows pictures of what he's putting in, and how he puts his name on it. There's a couple of bills right now to add a fifth face to Mount Rushmore. I guess you don't have to guess who that fifth face would be. Now, will it passes? I don't know. But I doubt it. Also, there's a new bill that's going to go through the Congress that will create a $250 bill with his picture on it. All right. Also, you can get the Trump account if you want to put money in for college for your kid. You can use Trump RX if you want to buy drugs. That may actually be a good deal. I wish he didn't have to put his name on it. He's renamed several buildings around Washington with his name. His birthday is a discount day for national parks. If you want to go to the national park, you get discounted. Now, it is also Flag Day, but he also puts his name on it. Also, he has that arch that he wants to put in. It's bigger than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Do we need an arch? No. But it's going to be there unless things happen. That whole ballroom business, the Donald J. Trump ballroom, as it's going to be called. The fact that he makes the White House look like a brothel. I mean, I don't know if you see. There's a picture in today's Washington Post. Can you pull up the Post? You don't have to see the article. I didn't put it up, but
I believe so.
But it's just it looks cheap and gaudy and terrible. And and okay, you say, well, what do you care about his taste? I wouldn't care if he didn't spend so much time on it. He wants to have gold all over the White House in his spare time, if he has any. Well, what the picture he's looking for? I guess maybe they've updated the page. They had
Tell you what, I'll keep scrolling.
All right. Anyway, they had this young boy who saved up somebody's life in the ocean. It was on the news, and he's sitting there in his suit and tie, getting talked to the president of the United States, and Trump uses that moment to trash some CNN reporter and call her bad names and say her kids must be ashamed of her, that she's a disgrace as a reporter and as a parent. Whew. Okay. But anyway, Trump spends all his time with this. And and that's what bothers me. We got serious problems. You know, the gas prices are serious. You go to the grocery store and you can't walk out of there under $50, even if you're just buying a handful of things. Prices are high. This is, again, 1975. You know, Ben Nickel mentioned earlier about inflation. It is a problem, and he just blows it off. Gas prices, $4. It's a small price to pay. Pay for what? Success in Iran? Okay, let's have success. What do you think? You got
Air
that
quotes,
look?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Air quotes, success in Iran.
Well, say that tomorrow they give up. Okay, you know, whatever reason. I don't know what. You know, I doubt they will, of course. And prices come back down, and we have a neutralized Iranian threat. Okay. That's not happening, though. And the Iranians are going to make sure that happens. You know, this is going to continue through the midterms. I mean, the Iranians are pretty politically astute about American politics, even though we're pretty ignorant of them, of Iranian politics, at least as a people. But anyway, my point with all of this is we have serious problems. We don't need a president that's going to be trashing reporters and getting in fights all the time. We don't need reporters that, a president that's going to be more worried about his image on gold coins, visas, passports. You didn't get a Trump picture on your passport. His picture is all over Washington, huge banners of that scowl. Looks like Big Brother. All right? On the Department of Labor, on the Department of Justice, which again is one of the most misnamed departments in the government. He's going after his personal enemies, not the threats to America. I'll end it by saying this. You know, I've alienated some people, not just, you know, casual viewers of the show, but people I know, my views on Mr. Trump. They said, well, you're not really, you know, you don't care for Mr. Trump or Republicans, whatever else. I care. All I don't want is the Republicans of Mr. Reagan or Mr. Bush, either one, or, you know, John McCain or Bob Dole. I mean, you know, rational Republican politics. I haven't changed my political positions on a lot of things. Some I've evolved on, like Irma mentioned earlier. Yeah, I've evolved on certain things. But I still believe in less government regulation. I believe in a strong military. I believe in strong borders. I am pro-life. There's certain things I've moderated on, like the way people live. You know, it's up to them. I don't really give much concern about it as much as I did 20 years ago. But what we're seeing now is frightening, and I guess that's the word I want to bring. Is a man in the Oval Office is so fixated on his image, so fixated on his enemies, so fixated on what's good for him, his complete lack of empathy for anybody. Here's an example, and I've got just some pushback on this from personal conversations, and that's fine. You know, you saw that him leaving Turkey, he left it by a separate plane than Air Force One. Do you see that?
Yeah, wasn't it like a catering car or something?
Yeah,
like that?
right. He left in a different plane later, but the Air Force One took off with most everybody else in it. Why? Because
including all the press.
With the press and half his cabinet. All right, Rubio was on that plane.
Yeah.
All right, and so they all flew. And why did he do this? Because of an Iranian threat to Air Force One, and this particular plane, which was a gift from the Qatari government, wasn't equipped as well as it should have been for these kind of attacks. So he takes off on the plane, and the other one takes off as a decoy. What if that Iranian threat had been true, and that plane got damaged or bombed, and people got killed? It wasn't just also, you know, people say, well, he's the president of the United States. You know, this happens, he needed to protect him. Fine. But he took 2 or 3 of his favorite aides with him. Everybody else take their chances. He took a couple of people that he found indispensable to him personally. Everybody else will see what happens. That's a lack of empathy he has for anybody. Now, a couple of people told me, so well, you're taking things too far. I don't agree with that. That's fine. But it's just indicative of just what's happening here in our country. And It bothers me. It bothers me the Republicans nominate somebody like Ken Paxton. Yet will he vote the right way? Probably. I don't know if you're a Republican, but that's not the point. A man like Ken Paxton wouldn't have gotten through the front door 50 years ago. Now he's the Senate candidate for Texas. And a man like, and you know, a woman, I will say this, a woman like AOC would not even be under serious consideration by her party for anything other than what she is, a member of a blue district from New York. But this is what we get. And I look at the polls for 2028, which I don't place a lot of faith in, and I don't place a lot of faith in, but they don't give me a lot of comfort either. So there you go. You got any commentary there, bud?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Let it roll.
Oh,
we got a few minutes left. Today.
Yeah,
TikTok, man.
I'm getting the words together. I don't know. I mean, from a lot of people in my generation, I've heard say, "Oh, well, like I'm not going to vote because, like, it doesn't even matter." You know, it's like, yeah, my votes get canceled out by my family or by my spouse or something like that. And it's like, well, no. Like we gotta make a difference, right?
Well, I always tell people
you gotta
that.
try to make a difference at least. Go vote.
Yeah, I tell people in my class this idea that your vote doesn't count. If you're a Democrat or a Republican in a district that's heavily the other, does your vote count? Yes, because we're not just going through some exercise of putting people into positions of authority. We're also expressing our values and our viewpoints. And the more people who don't vote, the politicians may talk about it, but they don't listen to you unless you vote. And if you have a situation where, let's say, Paxton wins this election by 5,000 votes or whatever, there's a message that was sent to the Republican Party. If he loses by 5,000, it's even a bigger one. All right, voting is our most accurate way of sending a message to our members of Congress or any other position. And when we don't vote, they don't have to pay attention to us. So that the idea that my vote's getting canceled out, so what?
Yeah, exactly.
So what? You just because somebody else votes differently than you doesn't mean you shouldn't vote because they voted that way, and it didn't make any difference. That's not a good philosophy.
Yeah, go vote. And I can also empathize with people who get discouraged by politics because it seems like you're voting for the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Brad, I think it was you who said this the other day, is like, would you rather have cyanide or hemlock?
Yeah, right.
Like, would you rather get shot in the hand or shot in the foot here?
Yeah.
But, and I do hope that changes one day, is that I hope that, first off, I hope that we get a presidential candidate presidential nominee who doesn't look like he's on his deathbed.
Yes.
Or... I don't know, people that we don't have to make compromises for,
and
to
I know
endorse.
what you mean. And not in most elections up until last few, I didn't have to make that choice. I had no problem voting for Mr. Reagan or George H.W. Bush or W. or Bob Dole or John McCain. I didn't feel like I was settling. I mean, did I agree with everything McCain said, or even Bob Dole said, or you fill in the blank said? No, but that's not the point. I didn't feel like, I got to hold my nose and vote. But it's been a while since I've had to say, which one do I want least? And that's not a good thing. I mean, 2016, 2020, and 24 have been the worst elections in my living history. And if I want to put them in American historical context, they're going to be right up there with 1856, which was a joke, or some of these others that are more obscure unless you're really into the history like I am.
Exactly. And I haven't had that privilege yet, because I was the first presidential election that I was old enough to vote for was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, and you'd think Armageddon was upon us.
Oh, yeah, well, it was awful. It was awful. Hillary Clinton would have been a terrible president, and she would be just as vindictive as Trump was. She she's a pretty mean woman, and people don't want to say that about her, but she would have been. It's ironic about her. When she was running for president, she said we need to bomb Iran, but that was different. Now it's somebody else doing it, and it's wrong now. But they have clips of her showing when 2008 that Iran can't get a nuclear bomb, and we need to act first, such as that. What else you got before we got 2 or 3 minutes left?
That about sums it up.
Well, I do feel sorry for your generation. You're not, my daughter is roughly your age, and we were saying the same thing last night. And they haven't really had an election that they could really get excited about.
Well, I also don't really remember. I hate to say this, I don't really remember living in a country that I feel proud of being in.
Well, okay. I am proud of this country because I'm proud of the people in it.
Yes.
Okay.
I see what you mean.
All right. I don't judge this country based on the quality of our president or his opponents. No, we are a great country. We do great things, but we do them as Americans, not because of our politics.
Okay. If I may rephrase, I haven't lived in a country that wasn't at war in the Middle East yet.
Well, that's true there, but I'm just saying.
I haven't lived in a country during a time of peace. And I feel like that's starting to get really old for people around my age, people late 20s, early 30s.
Well, you sound like the generation ahead of me in Vietnam era. Same thing. But I think you really do want to rephrase because you say
I will. I will rephrase that.
Okay, because America has a lot to be proud of. Why? Because of Americans and the cultural values we have. And if they're distorted by the politics, that's where I'm getting at. I don't say I'm ashamed of my country because of Donald Trump. He doesn't affect my feelings towards this country or my fellow Americans. Okay, neither does AOC or Bernie Sanders or you fill in the blank. They don't dictate to me whether or not I'm proud of my country. And people that are proud of their country strictly because the political policies that they may endorse, well, they're going to end up being pretty disappointed through the course of their lifetime. The reason I'm proud of Americans is because of all the nonprofits we have sitting here. That makes me proud to be an American because of the numerous acts of charity, of kindness that Americans do for each other, friends, neighbors, relatives, and strangers. The fact that we have done great things in our history, and we do great things now. This is kind of where I was getting at the point. It's being swallowed up by this tsunami of crap that we get in the media, social and otherwise. I'm proud to be an American down to my soles of my shoes because of the type of people we are. And Donald Trump isn't going to change that, and neither is the Democrat Party.
Okay, I'll agree with you.
Okay.
And rescind what I said.
Okay. Well, and send your emails to.
Oh boy.
Well, no, but a lot of people do. They look at their country and they see the president as being ahead of it and whatever, and the direction they take under Obama, under Trump, under Biden, fill in the blank, as indicative of American values. That's not true. We have American values that are separate from politics altogether. And I hope the course of this show, not just today, but over this, I'm coming up on 7 years. We've shown some of the good sides of America. When we have the mayor sit here, or Victoria sit here, or Adam Russell sit here, or Larry Scott, you fill in the blank, people that serve their neighborhoods and their communities, school board members, things of that nature. That's America, all right? People that donate to these places, people that help people with a flat tire on the road, people that, give assistance to people in need. Also, what makes me proud of America, I'm sitting right here as an example of it. I could sit here and bitch about Donald Trump all day long, and sometimes I do. Yeah, that's it. A little late on that.
Sorry,
but I could say these things, and the worst I'm going to get is snubbed on Facebook or some snotty comment, maybe.
Yeah, not shot in the streets.
Yeah, right. I could say that's what makes America great. Okay, it makes America great that if there are violations of my rights, I have recourse. And that what makes me proud to be American is that the things we protect in the Bill of Rights are so abused everywhere else. So, yeah. So I guess that's how I'd end this whole show. I may have spent the last hour plus criticizing Mr. Trump or AOC, whatever else. That's as American as it gets. All right. And I'm talking to myself as much as anybody else, trying not to let those people ruin your day, so to speak. We're a great country. We have great people. And we should never think otherwise as a people because how our leaders conduct themselves. Anyway, that's it for today. I feel better. How about you?
Yeah.
You like rants, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Honestly, I kind of do.
Yeah, I know.
I like being able to give my input every now and then.
Yeah.
I used to not like it as much, but
you're getting used to it. Huh? Well, I think the next time I'm doing this is on the 31st of this month. That's my first open date next week. I have Tracy Pope from Promises, which again is a great example of great Americans. Irma likes these shows too.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anyway, we have Tracy Pope with Promises, and then Tuesday I got Mr. Crisp or Mr. Irma. Brandon's going to be on here. He was on last time talk about his book, and we'll talk a little about that. But he also this is kind of a heads up. He's going to help me expand my accessibility. Let's put it that way. He's very good at creating apps and things, and we're going to talk about these things, and he may help me expand the ability to get my show out on other platforms at minimal expense. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, we'll be talking about things I have no idea, And so, yeah, that's it. The 31st, like I said, is the next open date. So maybe by that time, I'm more rant about.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for your input. All right. And now we'll see y'all later.